This is HOA violation vault. And yes, the tow truck really showed up. My name is Derek. I am a realtor in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I know the neighborhood rules too well. That is supposed to be an advantage. It was not. I moved to Beacon Hill 6 months ago because the houses were solid, the commissions were good, and I thought I could handle an HOA. I had sold dozens of homes in HOA communities. I knew the game. But this was different. This was a neighborhood where deadlines changed depending on who was being targeted, and I became the target the day I parked in a guest spot. Patricia Mitchell was already yelling at me when I walked out that morning. She is the treasurer of the Beacon Hill HOA, but she acts like she owns every curb and every painted line. She was standing next to my car with a handheld label maker in one hand and her phone in the other, a smart watch on her wrist that she kept tapping like it gave her authority. "You cannot park here," she said. "This is a guest spot." "I live here," I said. "I am a resident. My driveway is being resurfaced today. I will move it tonight." "Guests cannot be residents even temporarily," she said. "That is the rule. I already called the tow company." I felt my chest tighten. My mental health had been fragile for months. Panic attacks, insomnia, the kind of stress that makes you wonder if you are breaking. I had moved here for a fresh start, and now this woman was threatening to tow my car because I parked in an empty guest spot for one morning. She printed a label with her little machine and slapped it onto my windshield. No readable text, just a bright orange sticker that screamed violation. She did it with the precision of someone who had done this 100 times before. "The tow truck will be here in 20 minutes, she said. "If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA." That was the first time I heard her say it. It would not be the last. I called the management company. They told me guest spots were available to residents in emergencies, but only with a temporary permit. I asked why no one had told me that when I moved in. They said it was in the welcome packet. I never got a welcome packet. They said they would look into it and hung up. 20 minutes later, a flatbed tow truck pulled up. The driver looked bored. He hooked my car without a word, and I stood there with my phone in my hand filming the whole thing, feeling my heart pound in my ears. Patricia stood 10 feet away, arms crossed, tapping her watch like she was counting down to something. "You are making a mistake," I said. "Go ahead and call whoever you want," she said. "I have a committee for that." I did not chase her accusations, because I already had the receipts. I just did not know how bad it would get before I could use them. The tow yard was 30 minutes away. I paid $215 to get my car back, and the clerk, a guy named Ron with grease under his nails and a Beacon Hill HOA work order on his clipboard, quietly admitted that HOA paperwork was sloppy. He said they got calls from Patricia twice a week, sometimes for cars that had valid decals, sometimes for cars that were legally parked. He said he flagged it with his boss once, but the HOA threatened to blacklist the company if they refused to play along. That is when I realized this was not about rules. This was about control. I went home and started digging. I pulled the HOA bylaws, the city parking codes, the vendor contracts. I found out Patricia was running a community safety committee like a private police force, with no authority, no board vote, no formal approval. Just her and 2 other residents who carried clipboards and label makers and acted like they could issue citations. The next day I got a letter. It was not from the management company. It was from Patricia on Beacon Hill HOA letterhead, saying I owed a $50 violation fee for unauthorized guest parking and a $100 administrative processing fee for the tow. I had 72 hours to pay or they would add late fees and start lien proceedings. I called my attorney. He laughed. He said the fees were unenforceable without a board vote on record, and the lien threat was borderline illegal. He told me to document everything and prepare for a fight. I did not want a fight. I wanted to sell houses and sleep through the night, but Patricia was not going to let that happen. The next morning, I found a new rule posted in the resident portal. Effective immediately, all guest parking required a temporary decal issued by the safety committee. Decals cost $25 per day. Applications had to be submitted 48 hours in advance. The rule was dated the day after I complained to management. I went to the management company in person. They told me the safety committee had recommended the rule, and the board approved it in an emergency session. I asked to see the meeting minutes. They said the minutes were not finalized yet. I asked when the next board meeting was. They said it was in 3 weeks, and the agenda was already full. That same afternoon, a vendor truck showed up at my house. 2 men in orange vests started trimming the tree in my front yard without asking. I went outside and asked what they were doing. They said the HOA hired them to remove low-hanging branches for safety reasons. I told them I did not authorize it. They showed me a work order signed by Patricia Mitchell. I called her. She picked up on the first ring. That tree was a fire hazard, she said. We have the right to maintain common area safety standards. That tree is on my property, I said. The roots extend into the common area, she said. That makes it shared responsibility. If you have a problem, file a formal complaint. She hung up. I filed a formal complaint with the City Code Enforcement Office. They sent an inspector 3 days later. The inspector confirmed the tree was entirely on my lot, and the HOA had no legal authority to touch it. He issued a warning to the management company. Patricia sent me an email the same day, saying the safety committee had identified additional violations on my property, and I should expect a follow-up inspection within the week. That was when I realized she was setting a trap. Management sent contradictory instructions like a trap. One email said guest parking was allowed with a decal. Another said guest parking was prohibited for residents entirely. A third said decals were only for non-resident guests. I printed all 3 and added them to my binder. I had a home health aide coming in 2 days. My mother was recovering from surgery and staying with me temporarily. The aide needed to park somewhere, and the guest spots were the only option. I applied for a temporary decal. Patricia denied it. She said the application did not include proof of medical necessity. I resubmitted with a letter from my mother's doctor. She denied it again. She said the doctor's letter was not notarized. I went to the management company again. They said the safety committee had discretion over decal approvals, and there was nothing they could do. I asked what the appeals process was. They said there was not one. The aide arrived on a Tuesday morning. I told her to park in the guest spot and I would handle it. Patricia was waiting. She had a label maker, a clipboard, and a tow truck on speed dial. She slapped a sticker on the aide's windshield before the woman even got out of the car. This vehicle does not have a valid decal, Patricia said. It will be towed in 15 minutes. That is a medical professional, I said. She is here to care for my mother. Then she should have applied for a decal, Patricia said. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. The aide looked terrified. She told me she could not afford a towing fee. I told her to move her car to the street. Patricia followed her. Street parking is prohibited during weekday hours, Patricia said. That is in the bylaws. I checked the bylaws that night. Street parking was allowed on weekdays between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Patricia was lying. I forwarded the bylaw section to the management company and copied the entire board. No one responded. The next day, I got an email from Patricia. It had a photo attached. The photo showed the aide's car parked on the street with a timestamp. The email said the safety committee had documented the violation, and I would be fined $200 for allowing unauthorized street parking by a guest. I replied with the bylaw section. Patricia responded within 5 minutes. She said the bylaw had been amended at the last board meeting, and street parking was now prohibited except for residents with registered vehicles. I asked for the amendment documentation. She said it was in the draft minutes and would be posted after the next meeting. I called my attorney again. He said the amendment was legally questionable without proper notice, but fighting it would take months and cost thousands. He said my best bet was to document everything, attend the next board meeting, and force a public confrontation. I did not have months. I had 2 weeks before my mother's next surgery, and the aide needed to come every day. I started parking my car on the street and giving the aide my driveway. Patricia fined me every single day. The notices piled up. $50, $75, $100. One notice claimed I had parked in a fire lane. I had not. I had photos with timestamps proving it. I added them to my binder. Ron from the tow yard called me. He said Patricia had tried to get my car towed again, but he refused because it was legally parked. He said she threatened to have his company removed from the HOA vendor list. He said he did not care anymore, and if I needed a witness, he would testify. That was my first real ally. I met him for coffee the next day. He brought copies of every work order Patricia had submitted in the last 6 months. Half of them were for legally parked cars. A quarter were for cars with valid decals that she claimed were expired or fraudulent. He said she was running a quota system, trying to hit a certain number of violations per month to justify the safety committee budget. I asked him if he had proof. He showed me an email from Patricia. It said the committee needed to demonstrate value to secure funding for next year, and enforcement metrics were the easiest way to do that. It was dated 3 weeks before my first tow. That was the evidence I needed. I made copies. I added them to my binder with tabs and highlights. I started building a timeline. Every tow, every fine, every contradictory email, every lie. I cross-referenced it with city codes and HOA bylaws. I found a third-party confirmation from the city planning office proving the tow rule was being misused. The fire lane Patricia kept citing did not exist. It had been removed in a restriping project 2 years ago, and the HOA had never updated the map. I had everything. I just needed the right moment to use it. If you are enjoying this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA revenge content. The board meeting was scheduled for a Thursday night. I RSVP'd. Patricia sent me an email the day before, saying the agenda was full and public comment would be limited to 2 minutes per person. I replied saying I would be there anyway. I showed up early. The meeting was in the community center, a bland room with folding chairs and a folding table at the front. Patricia was already there, sitting at the table with 3 other board members, tapping her watch and whispering to the woman next to her. She saw me walk in with my binder and her face went tight. The meeting started. They went through the usual business, budget updates, landscaping contracts, upcoming events. 40 minutes in, they opened public comment. I stood up. Patricia cut me off before I could say a word. Public comment is for agenda items only, she said. If you want to discuss a personal matter, you need to file a written request. This is not a personal matter, I said. This is about illegal enforcement and fraudulent fines. The room went quiet. One of the other board members, a man in his 60s with reading glasses, leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" he said. I slid a tab timeline to the board and the room at the same time. 12 pages. Every tow, every fine, every email, every lie. Cross-referenced with bylaws, city codes, and vendor records. I watched Patricia's face go pale. "The treasurer has been running an unauthorized safety committee," I said. "She has been issuing fraudulent fines, threatening illegal liens, and coordinating with tow vendors to hit quotas. I have emails, work orders, and witness statements. I also have proof that the fire lane she keeps citing does not exist." Patricia stood up. "This is slander," she said. "You are disrupting an official meeting." "Sit down," the man with the glasses said. He was looking at my timeline. "Let him finish." I kept going. I showed them the emails from management with contradictory parking rules. I showed them the vendor records proving Patricia had called for tows on legally parked cars. I showed them the city planning confirmation that the fire lane had been removed. I showed them Ron's testimony and the email about enforcement quotas. The board was silent. The room was silent. Patricia was gripping the edge of the table, her knuckles white. "This is a compliance issue," the man with the glasses said. "We need to pause all enforcement actions until we can review this." Patricia exploded. "You are going to let him come in here and undermine months of work?" she said. "The safety committee has been protecting this neighborhood. He is the one breaking the rules." "What rules?" I said. "The ones you made up? The ones that change every time I ask a question?" She pointed at me. "Go ahead and call whoever you want," she said. "I have a committee for that." The room erupted. 3 residents started shouting at once. Someone said they had been fined for the same fake fire lane. Someone else said their guest had been towed even with a valid decal. The man with the glasses banged his hand on the table. "Meeting adjourned," he said. "We will schedule an emergency session to address this." Patricia grabbed her things and walked out. I stayed and talked to the other residents. 2 of them gave me their contact information and said they would testify if needed. One of them said she had been trying to get Patricia removed for a year, but no one would listen. I went home that night feeling like I had finally turned a corner. I was wrong. The next morning, Patricia posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. She said I had disrupted a board meeting with false accusations and harassment. She said I was trying to intimidate HOA leadership to avoid paying legitimate fines. She said the safety committee was investigating me for additional violations and residents should report any suspicious activity. The post got 43 comments in 2 hours. Half of them supported her, half of them called her out. The group admin deleted the post and said the group was not for HOA disputes. Patricia started a new group called Beacon Hill Safety Watch. 15 people joined in the first hour. I filed a formal complaint with the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. I filed another complaint with the city attorney's office. I sent copies of my timeline to the management company and demanded a written response. I heard nothing for 3 days. Then I got a letter. It was from an attorney representing the Beacon Hill HOA. It said my allegations were defamatory and without merit. It said I had violated HOA rules repeatedly and failed to pay legitimate fines. It said if I continued to harass board members, they would pursue legal action. I forwarded the letter to my attorney. He called me an hour later. "They are bluffing," he said. "They know they are in the wrong. They are trying to scare you into backing down." "I am not backing down," I said. "Good," he said, "because I think we can file a countersuit for harassment and abuse of process." I did not want a lawsuit. I wanted my life back. But Patricia was not going to give me that option. The next week, I was at the grocery store. I parked in the lot, went inside, bought milk and bread, and came back out. Patricia was standing next to my car with her phone out, filming me. "You parked in a fire lane," she said. "This is a grocery store," I said. "You do not have jurisdiction here." "Public safety is everyone's jurisdiction," she said. "I am reporting this to the store manager." A small crowd was forming. People were pulling out their phones. Patricia kept filming me, narrating for her video like she was documenting a crime. "This is the same person who has been harassing the HOA," she said. "Parking violations, rule breaking, intimidation. This is what we are dealing with." I pulled out my own phone and started recording her. "You are stalking me," I said. "This is not HOA property. You have no authority here." She stepped closer, her face red. "If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA," she said. That was when it happened. A gust of wind came out of nowhere, strong enough to rattle the shopping carts. Patricia had a printed packet in her hand, something she had been holding for her little performance. The wind ripped it out of her grip and sent the pages flying across the parking lot. She lunged for them, but they were already gone, tumbling into puddles and scattering under cars. The crowd started laughing. Someone made a joke about karma. Patricia screamed at them to stop recording. No one stopped. She turned back to me, shaking with rage. "You think this is funny?" she said. "You think you won?" I did not say anything. I just got in my car and drove away. I posted the video to my own Facebook page that night. It got 200 views in an hour. People shared it. People commented. A local news blog picked it up and ran a story about HOA overreach. Patricia tried to get the video taken down. She filed a privacy complaint with Facebook. They denied it. She sent me a cease and desist letter. My attorney sent one back. The emergency board meeting finally happened 2 weeks later. Patricia did not show up. The man with the glasses, whose name was Tom, chaired the meeting. He said the board had reviewed my evidence and found multiple compliance issues with the safety committee. He said all pending fines against me were being waived. He said the committee was being dissolved pending a full audit. I asked what would happen to Patricia. Tom said she was still the treasurer, but her role would be limited to financial oversight. She would no longer have enforcement authority. It was not enough, but it was something. The next day, I got a call from the city attorney's office. They said my complaint had triggered a compliance review of the entire HOA. They said if the HOA did not stop predatory towing or face fines, they would refer the matter to the state. They said they were sending an investigator to review the vendor contracts and enforcement records. Ron called me that afternoon. He said his company had dropped the Beacon Hill HOA contract after the city investigator contacted them. He said 2 other tow companies had done the same. He said Patricia had been calling around trying to find a new vendor, but no one would work with her. I felt something I had not felt in months. Relief. But I still had one card left to play. I had not told anyone about the recording yet. The trump card. The one piece of evidence that would end this for good. 3 weeks earlier, I had been at the management company office, waiting to speak to someone. Patricia had been in the next room on a conference call. The door was not fully closed. I heard her say something that made me stop breathing. "We do not need board approval for enforcement actions," she said. "The safety committee operates under emergency authority. That is in the bylaws. I wrote them." I pulled out my phone and hit record. I caught the rest of the call. 2 minutes of Patricia claiming authority she did not legally have in clear terms. She said the committee could issue fines without a vote. She said they could authorize tows without resident consent. She said the board did not have oversight because the committee was a separate entity. It was all a lie. I confirmed it with my attorney. The bylaws did not grant emergency authority. The committee had no legal standing. Everything Patricia had done was unauthorized. I did not use the recording at the first board meeting. I wanted to see if the board would do the right thing on their own. They did, partially, but Patricia was still there, still in a position of power, still sending emails and making threats. The final showdown came at the city compliance hearing. It was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in a courthouse hallway right before a hearing on a workday. I showed up early with my binder, my attorney, and Ron. Patricia showed up 5 minutes late with no attorney and no preparation. The investigator was a woman in her 50s with a clipboard and a recorder. She asked Patricia to explain the safety committee's authority. Patricia started talking about neighborhood safety and property values and resident complaints. The investigator cut her off. "Do you have documentation of board approval?" she said. Patricia hesitated. "It was an emergency measure," she said. "We did not have time for a formal vote." The investigator looked at me. "Do you have evidence contradicting that?" she said. I pulled out my phone. I played the clip out loud in the hallway so Patricia could not talk over it. Her own voice, clear and confident, saying the committee did not need board approval, saying she wrote the bylaws, saying the board had no oversight. Patricia's face went white. She tried to interrupt. The investigator held up a hand. "Let it play," she said. When it finished, the investigator looked at Patricia. "You just admitted to operating an unauthorized enforcement body and issuing fines without legal authority," she said. "That is fraud." Patricia started babbling. She said I had recorded her without consent. She said it was entrapment. She said the committee was protecting the neighborhood. The investigator was not interested. "The city is issuing a formal order," she said. "All fines issued by the safety committee are void. The HOA must refund any payments collected. If enforcement actions continue, the HOA will be fined $500 per incident. Do you understand?" Patricia did not answer. She just turned and walked away. The investigator handed me a copy of the order. She said I could file for reimbursement of towing fees and fines within 30 days. She said if I had any other complaints, I should contact her office directly. I walked out of that courthouse feeling lighter than I had in months. Ron shook my hand. My attorney said it was one of the cleanest wins he had seen in an HOA case. 2 days later, I got an email from the Beacon Hill HOA management company. It was a written reversal from management with a real citation. The email said all fines against me were being removed. It said I would receive a refund check within 14 business days. It said the safety committee had been permanently dissolved and enforcement authority was being returned to the management company. The email did not mention Patricia by name. But the next week, the board sent out a newsletter. It said Patricia Mitchell had resigned as treasurer effective immediately. It said the board was conducting a full financial audit and would provide updates as needed. I never saw Patricia again. I heard from a neighbor that she moved out 3 months later. Someone else told me she tried to join the board at her new HOA and got voted down after residents found the news blog story about the grocery store video. The HOA sent a correction email retracting the smear. They posted it in the resident portal and the neighborhood group. It said previous communications regarding my violations were issued in error and did not reflect HOA policy. It said the board apologized for any inconvenience. Patricia's group post got removed and replaced with a correction. The Beacon Hill Safety Watch group was deleted. The admin posted a note saying it violated community guidelines. And one morning, I was checking my mailbox when I saw a neighbor watering the lawn and pausing mid-spray to stare. He walked over. "You are the guy who took down the safety committee," he said. "I just wanted to park my car," I said. He laughed. "You did more than that," he said. "You got all of us our money back." I got a check 2 weeks later. Every towing fee, every fine, every bogus charge. $2,460. I deposited it the same day. My mother finished her recovery. The aid kept coming without any issues. I parked wherever I needed to park. No more labels. No more threats. No more Patricia. I still live in Beacon Hill. I still sell houses. I still know the rules too well. But now, the rules actually mean something. I ran into Ron a few months later at a coffee shop. He said his company had picked up contracts with 3 other HOAs after word got out that they refused to participate in Beacon Hill's scam. He said business was better than ever. Tom, the board member with the glasses, reached out to me privately. He said the financial audit had uncovered some irregularities in how Patricia had been managing the safety committee budget. He said it was being referred to an accountant for further review. He did not say more, but I got the sense that Patricia's problems were not over. I keep the binder in my office. Every document, every email, every receipt. I do not need it anymore, but I like knowing it is there. Proof that I did not back down. Proof that I won. The neighborhood is quieter now. The new treasurer is a retired accountant who actually follows the bylaws. The management company sends clear, consistent emails. The tow trucks only show up when someone is actually blocking a fire lane. And yes, those lanes are real now. properly marked and mapped. I still get the occasional dirty look from people who were in Patricia's camp. I do not care. I also get thank you notes from residents who got refunds. I keep those too. One afternoon, I was showing a house 2 blocks over. The buyers asked about the HOA. I told them the truth. I said it used to be a problem, but it got fixed. I said the board is functional now, the rules are clear, and enforcement is fair. I said if they ever have an issue, they should document everything and not be afraid to push back. They bought the house. I still see the handheld label maker sometimes in my nightmares. That little machine, printing violations, slapping them on windshields, ruining people's days for no reason other than a power trip. But then I remember the grocery store parking lot, the wind ripping Patricia's packet out of her hands, the pages flying into puddles, and I smile. Karma is real, and sometimes it has a sense of timing. I learned a lot from this. I learned that HOAs only have the power you give them. I learned that documentation is everything. I learned that bullies fold when you stand up with evidence. And I learned that sometimes the people who scream the loudest about rules are the ones breaking them the most. I also learned that I am stronger than I thought. My mental health is better now. I sleep through the night. I do not panic when I see a tow truck. I do not flinch when I get an email from the HOA. I take my power back, one boring compliance email at a time. The neighborhood Facebook group is normal now. People post about lost pets and garage sales and recommendations for plumbers. No one talks about the safety committee anymore. It is like it never existed. But I remember, and I make sure everyone I know remembers too. When I talk to other realtors, I tell them the story. I tell them to warn their clients. I tell them that HOAs can be predatory, and the only defense is knowledge and documentation. Some of them laugh it off. Some of them take notes. A few have called me later to say they used my advice and it worked. I have become the neighborhood HOA expert by accident. People ask me questions. They forward me emails. They ask me to review notices. I do not mind. It feels good to help people avoid what I went through. I thought about running for the board. I decided against it. I do not want that responsibility. I just want to live here in peace, sell houses, and not get towed for parking in a guest spot. But I keep my binder updated, just in case. Because I know Patricia is not the only one out there. There are HOAs all over this country doing the same thing. Fake committees, fake rules, predatory enforcement. And most people do not fight back because they do not know how, or they are too tired, or they are too scared. I was all of those things, but I fought anyway. And I won. The last time I heard anything about Patricia was 6 months after she left. Someone sent me a screenshot from a different neighborhood group. Patricia had posted a complaint about her new HOA. She said they were not enforcing parking rules strictly enough. She said someone needed to form a safety committee. The post had 0 likes and 15 comments telling her to mind her own business. I laughed so hard I cried. I still park in guest spots sometimes, just because I can. I still check the bylaws before I do anything the HOA might question. I still keep receipts for everything. Old habits die hard. But I also sleep easier. I breathe easier. I live easier. Because I know that when someone tries to abuse their power, there is always a way to fight back. It just takes patience, documentation, and the willingness to stand up when it would be easier to sit down. I did not set out to be a hero. I just wanted to park my car. But sometimes, that is all it takes to start a revolution. And sometimes, the revolution is just getting your $2,000 back and watching a bully lose everything they built on lies. I will take that as a win. The Beacon Hill HOA is not perfect, but it is better. And that is enough. I still live here. I still work here. I still know the rules too well. But now, the rules work for everyone, not just for people like Patricia. And that is all I ever wanted. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.